8 Sinister Trucker Horror Stories Revealed. Terrifying encounters with the haunted unknown. The night is thick with tension, laced with the lingering fear of dark legends that whisper through the thinning air. Sarah, a single mother in Maplewood, knows them all too well, the bone-chilling tales of truckers who haunt the highways, driving beneath shadowy stars, searching for sole sustenance in the remnants of lost lives. Each story told over greasy plates at the diner pours fire into her imagination, a sinister rogue, a ghostly engine, the lost echo of a past too dark to remember. Through her exhaustion, she dismisses them, convincing herself that these frightening tales are nothing but local lore. But as she drives home after yet another soul-crushing double shift, the gnawing anxiety tightens like a noose around her heart. Tonight, a cold sweat prickles down her spine when she catches the sight of a monstrous rig parked ominously in front of her home, its hulking form illuminated by the flickering streetlight. A shiver of dread crawls through her chest. The driver, a shadow with no discernible features, sits behind the wheel, a mere silhouette enveloped in oppressive night. "It's just exhaustion," she mutters, trying to shake off the impulse to flee. Her neighborhood is a patchwork of familiarity, bursting with neighborly smiles by day. Could it really turn sinister after sundown? But everything changes when she returns from a quick trip to the store. Relieved to see her daughter Lily safe with their neighbor Tom, she settles in, only for the unsettling sensation of wrongness to engulf her. Hours tick by, her pulse quickening with each unanswered call to Tom, tightening the dread's grip around her throat. Where is he? The horror stories flood back, unbidden. Missing children. What if? She stifles a sob, pushing the panic down deep. Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. With shaky breaths, she bolts for the door, clutching her phone like a lifeline. Falling into the night, she races toward Tom's house, dread clawing at her heels. As she reaches the threshold of the neighbor's yard, she catches the sight of the truck again, closer now, its headlights glaring like hungry eyes. The street encroaches with an uncanny silence, as if the world is holding its breath, waiting for chaos to unfold. Fear pulses in her veins as she confronts Tom, but in a few chilling moments, she discovers deep-rooted connections spiraling from her neighbor's facade into darkness. The air thickens with betrayal. Each piece connects in a web leading back to the truck, the driver, her daughter's whereabouts, and the unsettling truth buried beneath the smiles of Maplewood's trusted faces. Every creak of the night feels amplified, echoes bouncing off walls, wrapping around her like a suffocating blanket. As shadows stretch and flicker, the line between safety and horror blurs, leaving a single haunting question: can Sarah expose the truth behind the veil of trust before it swallows her whole? With darkness creeping in, dawn seems a lifetime away, and the nightmares whisper louder than ever. Heart pounding, Sarah's mind races as she stands at the threshold of Tom's darkened house. The eerie silence wraps around her, each second stretching into eternity. She hesitates, torn between the instinctive drive to retreat and the overwhelming need to find Lily. Her breath quickens as a realization washes over her like a cold wave. Tom is not just her neighbor, he's entangled in something diabolical. She grabs the door handle, twisting it, forcing herself inside. The familiar scent of Tom's aftershave, once comforting, now sends a chill down her spine. "Tom?" she calls, her voice wavering. The emptiness laughs back at her. She steps deeper into the living room, her eyes darting from shadow to shadow. A low creak reverberates from the back of the house, drowning out the rhythm of her heart. "Is anyone here?" she whispers, hoping for an answer that doesn't come. The hairs on the back of her neck rise, a primal fear whispering something is wrong. Suddenly, the front door slams shut behind her as if pushed by invisible hands. Panic erupts within. She spins around, ready to flee, but the darkness seems to encompass her, closing in like a vice. Why am I still here? She thinks, her mind clawing at the logic of her reckless search. This place has become a claustrophobic prison, every inch dripping with dread. In a heartbeat, her thoughts snap back to Lily. Where is she? A fleeting moment of clarity surfaces. Her daughter's laughter echoes in her mind, drowning out the dread. Gripping the phone tightly, she retraces her steps toward the bedrooms, praying for the sound of little feet or her daughter's soft voice. Reaching for the light switch, she hesitates. What if something lurks inside the shadows? The horror stories warned of things unseen, waiting for the foolhardy to glimpse their wickedness. Gathering her courage, she flicks the switch. The dim light spills over the first room, a mess of scattered toys, untouched since Lily's last playtime. Each moment she doesn't see her reassures and terrifies her simultaneously. Maybe she's in the next room, Sarah tries to convince herself, but deep inside, a gnawing dread tells her she may be too late. As she inches toward the second door, another moan echoes from the back. It's a sound that freezes her, it's not human, and it twists her gut with a primal fear. Each agonizing step feels heavier, each breath like shards of ice in her lungs. She presses a hand against the wall for support, the rough texture grounding her reality. She pushes open the door. A rush of stale air hits her, mingled with fear and something much darker. The room is empty save for an old trunk against the far wall, dusty and covered in scratches, as if clawed by desperate hands. Backing away slowly, panic surges through her. What has Tom done? What has become of her little girl? No. The realization crashes over her like a tsunami. The truck. The driver. Time blurs as the pieces connect. As if summoned by her thoughts, a rumbling sound penetrates the darkness, echoing in the silence outside. The beastly truck roars to life, its power creating vibrations that dance through the floor beneath her feet. Then she hears a faded giggle, followed by a chilling silence, as if the very night swallowed it whole. Her heart breaks at the sound, torn between the urge to run toward that giggle or the cold understanding of dread. The walls constrict around her, and Sarah knows she must act now or risk losing everything. With every ounce of strength, she lunges toward the back door, adrenaline pulsing. Behind her, the lurking shadows threaten to rear back, revealing their hidden horrors. Will she find Lily in time? As she grips the doorknob, her pounding heart echoes in her ears. What waits outside will change everything, and she has no idea what truly lurks there. The doorknob turns with surprising ease, and Sarah flings the door open, the night air crashing into her face like a cold slap. Distant moonlight floods the yard, illuminating the overgrown grass but offering little comfort. She squints into the darkness, trying to pierce through what shadows conceal. Every instinct screams to press forward, yet a weight in her gut tells her to turn back. But she can't. Not now. Lily. She shouts, strained and desperate, her voice swallowed by the yawning silence. The echoes of her call fade away into the distance. A chill rushes over her, tangling with the tendrils of fear that wrap around her throat, squeezing her breath. She stumbles forward, the cold earth squishing beneath her feet, each step feeling like wading through quicksand. Then she hears it again, a giggle. It's unmistakably her daughter's laughter, light and carefree, dancing on the edge of the foreboding night. Sarah's heart jolts. Lily. Where are you? Each word is laced with confusion and urgency. The laughter fades, dipping suddenly into a haunting silence that needles into her bones. She races toward the sound, stumbling over roots and stones, the tall grass tugging at her clothes like fingers trying to pull her back. Where could she possibly be? Maybe she's playing hide and seek. The thought is maddening. This isn't a game. Out of the corner of her eye, a shadow flits between the trees, quick and ghost-like. She freezes for a split second, the instinct to run warring with the need to find her daughter. Keep it together, she whispers to herself, breathing hard, the words barely making it past her quivering lips. With each footfall, the oppressive atmosphere grows thicker, as if the darkness is folding in on her. She keeps pushing forward, her instincts on high alert. There's something out there, a gnawing sense that she's being watched, hunted. Another laugh rings out, this time echoing closer, a teasing beckon slicing through the shadows. It propels her forward, disarming and sinister, igniting a flicker of hope that it really is Lily. But then reality bites this isn't right. Sarah feels a prickling at the nape of her neck. The very air around her feels charged with something malevolent. "Stay close, sweetheart." She calls out, her heart leaping into her throat. Suddenly, she comes upon the flickering light of the truck. It's parked in a clearing, its engine idling ominously, a beast waiting to pounce. The cabin door hangs open, swaying slightly with the breeze, as if it's inviting her in. A shiver races up her spine, and then she sees them, a flash of white between the trees. For an instant, it looks like Lily, her dress billowing like a ghostly apparition. "Lily!" Sarah screams, her voice thick with fear and relief, but as she rushes toward the figure, it vanishes as abruptly as it came. Heart racing, dread grips her again. "No! Not now!" She shouts, pulling at her hair, trying to will the images away. Then the sounds start, a low thrumming from the truck, sending vibrations through the ground beneath her. Fingers of shadow ripple around her, twisting and curling, pulling her deeper into the nightmare. In a desperate rush, Sarah glances back at the house, now a sinister silhouette against the moonlit sky. "Lily!" She screams, but this time her voice falters into a terrified whisper. What if the laughter was never really her daughter's? What if it was a trap? Terror grips her heart as the truck door slams shut, sealing whatever darkness lurks inside. A chilling laugh, too adult, too sinister, echoes from within. She has to know. Steeling herself, Sarah steps forward. Each footfall feels heavier, as though the ground itself is warning her to turn back. But she can't. With a deep breath, she reaches for the door handle. What waits inside could be the last thing she ever sees. The door creaks as Sarah pulls it open, the stale air rushing out like a breath held too long. She hesitates, heart pounding, vertigo spinning her thoughts. The inside of the truck looms dim and shadowy. Faint outlines of tools and equipment glint dully in the meager light, but something else shifts in the corners, lurking and watching. As she steps inside, the door slams shut behind her with a force that rattles her bones. Panic grips her as she spins, the cool metal handle feeling wet with dread in her palm. "Lily!" She screams again, her voice cracking in the enclosed space. The echoes of her cries bounce against the walls, ringing hollowly. Suddenly, the engine roars to life, and her pulse quickens. The vibrations shake her, crackling through the air like lightning about to strike. The steering wheel, slick with grime, feels cold under her fingertips as her mind races. This wasn't a safe space, it was a trap. "Get out!" She shouts at herself, but her feet refuse to move. From behind the cabin, a whisper curls through the darkness, laced with evil. "Mommy!" Her breath hitches. A twisted reflection of her daughter's voice, and it hurls her into confusion. "Lily, is that you?" Words slip out like a prayer. Another cold laugh, desperate and familiar, rises from the shadows. It felt wrong. "Mommy's scared." "Don't be scared, Mommy." The voice drips with malice, each word twisting like a serpent around her throat. "No. Stop." Sarah cries, backing away until she hits the dashboard. Her eyes dart wildly, searching the darkness for her daughter, for any sign of life. Yet all she can see are unfinished shapes gathering closer, twisting into ghastly forms. The truck rocks slightly, and the laughter intensifies, crawling under her skin, pooling in her gut. The faint glow from the moon catches glints of something metallic within the shadows. It's a blade, long and glimmering. A fragment of sanity pierces through her terror. She had to get to it. As she lunges toward it, the shadows swirl like a tempest, a dark storm wrapping around her. The air feels thick with danger. Shadows reach for her, pulling her deeper into their darkness. Lily! She screams again, desperation punctuating her words. The laugh morphs into a howl, a cacophony of torment echoing around her. Then, abruptly, silence falls, heavy and suffocating. Suddenly, a figure steps out from the darkness, and for a moment, Sarah's heart swells with hope. It's Lily. Her daughter stands there, fragile and radiant, her hands ghostly pale against the night. But Sarah's elation is short-lived. Lily's eyes hold a darkness that feels suffocating, an abyss digging into Sarah's soul. "Come play with me, Mommy," the girl whispers, her smile twisting wide, impossibly wide. The shadows pulse, writhing in hunger, and Sarah feels her sanity slipping as dread fills the gaps of her reality. She shakes her head violently. "No. You're not Lily." And with that, whatever had claimed her daughter roars to life, the air buzzing with a sinister energy. The cabin quakes, rattling everything within. Sarah springs toward the door, fingers fumbling against the handle, but it remains stubbornly shut. "Let me out. Let me out," she begs, her voice rising to a shriek. Too late. Shadows engulf her, swallowing her screams. The laughter grows deafening, a chorus of tormented souls filling the cabin. Then it stops. Silence. Sarah gasps for breath, feeling something brush against her cheek, cool, gentle, yet menacing. The darkness parts just enough to reveal the outline of her daughter, standing outside, her figure now framed by the moonlight. "Mommy, you left me," Lily says, sounding so innocent, so sweet, yet something dark simmers underneath. The world tilts, spinning, and Sarah realizes the unsettling truth. She isn't the one trapped. A scream rises in her throat, clenching her heart as the truck starts to roll forward slowly, wheels turning toward the edge of the abyss. What lurks in the darkness? What other horrors await as she gets pulled deeper into the nightmare? The chilling unanswered question sends shivers down her spine. The truck crawls forward, tires hissing against the gravel like whispers of betrayal. Sarah's heart races, a wild drumbeat echoing in her ears. She swings against the door again, desperate, but the metal frame remains unyielding, a cruel reminder of her entrapment. "Lily!" She screams, though her voice feels small in this vast black sea. The shadows deepen, bloating around her. "Please, I need you." But Lily just watches, her eyes glimmering with mischief. "You can't leave me now, Mommy. It's our turn to play." The word slithers through the air, twisting into something grotesque. Sarah's gut churns. This isn't a game. A scream rises in her throat, but she swallows it back down, forcing herself to breathe, to think. "What do you want from me?" she whispers, voice trembling. The shadows around the truck pulse like a living thing, hungry and eager. "Want you to be with me." Lily dances on the cusp of the darkness, her shadow elongating, stretching impossibly. Forever a shiver runs through Sarah, wrapping around her spine like a cold hand. "Know this isn't you, Lily. Then why are you scared?" The little girl's voice rolls soft, yet it carries a weight that crushes her resolve. "Mommy, I need you." Suddenly, the vehicle lurches, dragging Sarah out of her thoughts. The darkness outside ripples, the air thickening until she can barely breathe. The ground falls away beneath the tires, and her stomach drops, plunging her into an empty pit of dread. Her mind races. They were getting closer to the abyss. An emptiness filled with promises of torment. "Stop. Please." She scrambles to find something, anything that will break her free. Her fingers brush against the cold knife, slicker now than before. It glimmers, a beacon of hope and danger. With a surge of determination, she dives toward the blade, fingers clutching it tightly, a thrumming pulse of survival. But the shadows swirl, growing denser, coiling like vipers. You don't need that, Mommy, Lily giggles, the sound like shattered glass. We can be happy together. Just give in. No. Sarah screams, swinging the knife toward the thick mass, watching as it hisses and retreats. Get away from me. The space quakes, and the laughter shifts abruptly, morphing into anguished wails. For a fleeting moment, she sees the faces of others trapped in the darkness, jagged, twisted, begging for release. Each face, another reminder of the fate that awaits should she fail. They claw at the edges of her mind, each plea threatening to unravel her defenses. Help us help. Mommy, don't. Lily's voice sends a spike of panic through her, snapping her back. Shadows swirl around her limbs, gripping tight and pulling her back. She fights against the pull, her muscles straining as she tries to rise. But the shadows are strong, relentless, tears blur her vision. I want to let you take me. In a desperate motion, Sarah plunges the knife into the floor of the truck. The blade bites deep, piercing into the heart of the looming darkness. A howl erupts, jagged and furious, rippling through the shadows. It hurts. The darkness shrieks, plunging into chaos. The vehicle swerves violently, jerking Sarah sideways. But through the turmoil, she steels herself, holding onto the knife with unwavering resolve. Mommy. Her heart falters, the agony in the voice pulling her toward a fissure in the shadows. A glimmer flares deep within, where the darkness recedes just enough to reveal a glint of pale, familiar skin. It wasn't Lily. Not her daughter. The effort it took to resist the pull felt monumental, as a chilling warmth threatened to wrap around her. You're not hers anymore, she whispers, gripping the knife with a fierce hold. Get away. The shadows throb and pulse in protest, but she feels the ground beginning to shift beneath her feet. The twinkle in the corner of her eye flickers brighter, a beacon pricking through the darkness. Mommy, no. We can be together. With a fierce scream, Sarah lunges toward the light, fueled by the desperate love for the real Lily, an instinct stronger than any darkness surrounding her. And then she hears it, the crack of light breaking through the suffocating void, a loud roar bursting from the truck, shaking it as bolts of pure energy expand around her. But is it enough to break free? The pull of the abyss feels stronger than ever, and as the darkness collides with the light, Sarah braces herself for the inevitable. What will be left when the dust settles? The longing darkness coils tighter. What waits beyond the flickering light? The light surged like a tidal wave, enveloping Sarah in an embrace so blinding, it burnt her eyes. She squeezed the knife, willing it to incise reality, to separate her from the suffocating shadows that threatened to pull her in. But even as she fought, the darkness had a grip, icy fingers ensnaring her limbs, tugging her deeper into their grasp. Screams resonated through the void, echoes of countless souls trapped in endless anguish. Help us. Help. Then the light flickered. It pulsed weakly, sending ripples of uncertainty swarming around her. She felt her heart skip, time stretched into a taut string of horror. What if the light failed? Lily, please. She cried. The moments of clarity were fleeting, and the shadows' claws dug in deeper. If you're in there, fight. Fight for us. The shadows around her seethed, shifting restlessly. She doesn't want you. You're alone now, they hissed, their voices a cacophony of despair. The darkness grew, entwining around her throat, constricting like a noose. Sarah gasped, her breath faltering as panic clawed at her chest. No. She roared, summoning every ounce of strength to fight back. She gripped the knife tighter, feeling its coolness against her palm invigorate her resolve. I want to let you take me. With a sudden surge, she stabbed the knife into the thin barrier formed by light, feeling a powerful shockwave explode around her. Light and darkness collided, an eruption that shook her to the core. For a moment, she floated in a haunting limbo, a split second of surreal suspension where time had no meaning. Then everything exploded, the darkness screeched, a banshee-like wail echoing in her ears as the shadows dissolved into a cloud of smoke. The truck jolted violently, and Sarah was thrown against the door. Stars bloomed in her vision as she fought to regain her footing. The very air buzzed, heavy with fragmentation, filled with sharp little flashes that threatened to skewer her sanity. She blinked against the brilliance, trying to discern her new reality. A blinding white light cascaded around her, and shadows congealed farther away, snarling and twisting but unable to reach her. She felt the pull begin to lessen, a weakening thrumming in the darkness. "Mommy," a faint voice drifted from the edge of the chaos, barely perceptible, and suddenly so precious. "Lily?" Sarah's voice was incredulous, struggling against the pit of fear in her throat. "Is that you?" But the darkness stirred, rallying, the threat bubbling back to the surface. "You should have let her go," it said, its tones syncopated with menacing laughter. "Now you're both trapped." A sound surged from the back of the truck, a metallic clank as if metal bones were shifting in the shadows. Sarah's heart plummeted. It was a sound of something alive, something lurking, waiting to be unleashed in the turmoil. The light flickered again, its flickering becoming frantic as shadows loomed, reshaping into twisted forms that clawed at the edges. Sarah backed away, rising panic swelling in her chest. "Get away from us." There was no time to think, no time for hesitation. She lunged back toward the light, but every step brought her closer to the darkness' reach. As if sensing her approach, the shadows writhed, elongating into spindly figures that reached for her, seeking to drag her back down into their embrace. The knife pulsed in Sarah's grip, a promise of protection, yet the chaos around her threatened to snatch it away. She glanced at the growing darkness, the distorted faces flitting in and out, each one a twisted glimpse into what awaited if she faltered. "Mommy." The voice was clearer now, almost tangible. With renewed strength, Sarah focused her energy and plunged the knife once more into the ground, screaming, "Get away." A shockwave rippled through the ground, forcing the shadows to recoil. The light blazed anew, a searing lance in the dark, blasting through the faces of the trapped souls as they twisted in torment. Freedom lay so close, but was it attainable? The darkness coalesced around her, clawing at her ankles, wrapping around her waist. "You can't escape this time," it taunted, and in that moment, Sarah knew what she had to do. "I want to let you take me or her." With a desperate swing of the knife, she felt the light solidify, a pulsing shield against the encroaching tar. The abyss roared in anger, churning, miasmic, vibrating with rage that filled the air with a scent of rot. But one figure moved through it all, a light brighter than anything she'd known. "Lily. Come with me." But was that glimmer truly Lily? Sarah faced the void. The pull was stronger, and she sensed the darkness tightening around her, ready to consume. Would she tear down the wall between light and dark to seize her daughter? As the knife trembled in her grip, she knew one thing: decisions would be made that might either save or destroy them both. "Only one can return," whispered a voice laden with malice. Could she risk it all? The shadows writhed closer, the darkness thickening around Sarah like a suffocating fog. She felt the knife pulse with warmth, urging her towards an impossible choice. "Lily." She screamed, but doubt twisted her words, filling her with a hollowness that chilled her bones. The light flickered faster now, every pulse felt like a countdown, echoing through the turmoil in her heart. "Mommy." The voice was clearer, as if Lily were right beside her. Preventing her from focusing was the flickering void, which seemed all too eager to drown out the light. Sarah squinted, willing the brilliance to stay strong. "I'm coming for you." But the standoff between light and dark grew fiercer. Tendrils of shadow lunged forward, their clawed appendages grasping and tearing at her, sinking into her skin like needles. She gasped and stumbled back, overwhelmed by their cold embrace. The flickering light barely held, pulsating like a heart on the verge of failure. "Do you even know what's waiting on the other side?" The darkness crooned, its voice smoother now, seductive in its taunt. Sarah shuddered. She had seen enough horror to know the price of crossing to the other side, but the thought of leaving Lily behind was unbearable. Stay back! She yelled, thrusting the knife forward. The blade caught the light and radiated a fierce glow, lighting up the grotesque faces of the shadows, which flinched as if burned. But the momentary reprieve was short-lived. The darkness surged, more desperate, more furious. Only one can return, it hissed, laughing as if it knew the depths of her despair. The specters around her twisted, morphing into terrifying figures of everything she feared, a blurred image of her husband, once a solid protector, now a skeletal husk creeping forward with sunken eyes. Join us! Get away! With a primal scream, she swung the knife beside her, desperation propelling her, and the darkness screeched in outrage, recoiling from her fierce resolve. Mommy! Please! Lily's voice echoed again, pulling at Sarah as if stretching an unbreakable tether. She could almost see her daughter now, a smudge of light against the oncoming tide of nightmares. Instinct and love fought against the fear. I can't leave you. Leave her. The shadows slithered closer, their whispers like ice. You know you want your freedom. You don't know what I want. Sarah shot back, her heart pounding. I want her. A maelstrom of horrifying possibilities swirled in her mind as the darkness twisted her fears into grotesque shapes. Despair poured into her heart, threatening to shatter her. She tightened her grip on the knife, feeling it vibrate with power, glimmers of hope dancing at the edge of her vision. Trust the light. A new voice emerged, a deep, assertive roar that thrummed through her. The light surged again, momentarily pushing the shadows back, revealing banal yet haunted faces twisted into agonized expressions. Fight! Summoning a last shred of strength, Sarah charged toward the light, arm extended, knife poised. Lily! I'm coming! Bright light exploded around her, but the darkness receded, wrapping around her, biting at her heels. Steeling herself against the cold fingers clawing at her legs, Sarah felt the air thicken with despair. The knife's tip pressed against the brink of oblivion. All at once, the cacophony ceased. Silence unfolded, and Sarah froze. What came next would define everything: surrender to the shadows or fight for an escape. And then came the chilling realization: the shadows weren't just reaching for her body, they were hungry for her essence, pulling her focus into dizzying depths. But there was a glimmer in the chaos. The shout of her daughter resonated in her heart, a desperate tether through the dark tapestry surrounding her. Mommy! Help! Just as she leaped, aiming for the blinding light, the shadows exploded outward. Sarah stumbled as the chaotic collision knocked the wind from her lungs. But as she pushed against the fray, she caught sight of a wretched silhouette forming behind her, a lost soul shrouded in darkness. Who? The voice was familiar, tethered to her very being, and it sent chills racing down her spine. The light flickered once more, weaker this time, and panic ignited inside her. Is that my daughter? She whispered into the dark, heart racing, mind racing. The shadows twisted violently, laughter echoing all around her as she prepared herself for whatever would come next, knowing that each second might be her last. Only one can return, the abyss whispered again, but would it be Sarah or Lily? The shadows pulsed around Sarah, a writhing mass of dread. She fought to block out the laughter that echoed off the dark walls of this realm. I won't abandon you, Lily. She screamed, her body trembling as she shuffled backward, panic clenching her heart. The dim light flickered precariously above, its fading glow brushing her skin with an icy caress. Then, the wretched silhouette stepped forward, and her breath caught. It had the unmistakable form of Lily, but the face was a grotesque mask of darkness. Eyes wide, filled with terror, they seemed to stare directly into Sarah's soul. Mommy! The voice was a chilling parody, distorted and twisted, but the plea beneath it pushed the throbbing fear deeper into her chest. No! No! Sarah shook her head, clutching the knife as if it were a lifeline. Her pulse raced. She willed the shadows to back away, to let her see clearly, to give her hope. But the laughter grew louder, the familiar echoes of her husband's voice weaving into the darkness around her. You can join us. Together, we can be whole again. Stop! She shouted, slashing the knife through the air, desperate to sever the ties binding her to this nightmare. You're not real. You can't have me. Only one can return, the shadows hissed. She felt it wrap tighter around her, squeezing the breath from her lungs. The fear was crushing, and her heart screamed to give in, to follow the tempting darkness. What if she was the one they wanted? What if that meant Lily would be safe? Just then, the light flickered again, stronger this time, pulsing with an almost sentient force. It ignited within her, filling her with warmth and driving back the shadows. As they shrieked in agony, buckling under its strength, a voice, deep and unfaltering, surged through her. Fight, Sarah. She's waiting for you. It's not her yet. In that moment, clarity sliced through her fear. Something was wrong, deeply wrong. This was not Lily. It was a trick, a cruel facade crafted by the shadows. Lily! She yelled again. I'm coming. With a renewed sense of purpose, Sarah lunged toward the shimmering light, the knife drawn high. Each step felt like running underwater, the darkness clawing at her, desperate to pull her back, but she pressed on, calling out for her daughter, tambourine of her heart drumming in her ears. Hold on, baby. The shadows lashed out, desperate to catch her in their icy grip, but each time their claws grazed her, the light flared brighter, igniting her resolve. Sarah felt a flicker of freedom, enough to pull her closer to the blinding glow, and then she heard it. A soft call, clear as crystal. Mommy. It was the real voice of her daughter, cutting through the cacophony. The light pulsated again, and Sarah saw it. Lily was alive, trapped behind the swirling darkness but still shining. I'm here. Sarah cried, rushing toward her, hate and love mixing into a fierce determination. The darkness roared, unleashing a final surge of shadows, a corporeal tide of nightmares. One last push, the right choice. You can't have us. She screamed, plunging the knife into the heart of the void, the blade singing with power as it connected with the darkness. The world erupted in blinding brilliance, a flash of energy that rocked her to her core. Then, silence, a stretched pause teetering on the edge of reality. Gradually, the light dimmed, revealing an unsettling landscape scattered with the remnants of the shadows, littered with shadows that slinked away, whispering promises of despair. But as history and agony faded, what remained scared her more than the darkness. The voices were quiet. Had she lost Lily forever? Or had she truly saved her? A flicker caught her eye, and she turned to see a small, almost insignificant shadow lurking in the corner. Mommy? It was faint, yet familiar. Her breath quickened again. Lily? Suddenly, the ground trembled beneath her, a rush of wind blowing ominously through the remnants of shadows. The noise swelled frighteningly, and before she could react, the shadows surged back, rushing in like a tidal wave. Get away! She screamed, but darkness wrapped around her, fleeing with a whisper. One can return, but will it be you this time? As Sarah felt herself entangled in the despairing grip again, a terrifying realization slashed through her fear. She wasn't free yet. What awaited her in this dark realm, and would she make it back to Lily, or would she join those lost souls forever? The darkness tightened like a noose, squeezing Sarah against the cold, unforgiving ground. Panic radiated from her heart, a cold sweat pooling at her brow. Lily! She screamed, voice breaking, but the shadows only laughed. They twisted and curled around her, each voice a sickening echo, bouncing off the void. You thought you could escape? They taunted, their words slithering into her mind. You were never meant to leave. Breathless, Sarah fought the tide. She wrested the knife from her side, the blade shimmering dully in the faint light. Instinct told her to stab, to slash at the horrors that surrounded her, but part of her feared that she would only cause more pain. Would she hurt Lily? The wailing whispers shifted closer, blanketing her in a desperate grip, oozing with despair. You can join us, Sarah. You'll be with Lily forever. No. She closed her eyes, and a fleeting image flashed behind her lids. Lily's face, full of light and laughter, the way she used to cradle her stuffed bear. It was the beacon she needed. "I'll never be like you," she shouted, rage and love fueling her renewed resilience. She pushed against the weight of the shadows, feeling their form against her skin as they pressed ever closer, gnashing at her soul. "Leave her alone," she bellowed, feeling an unseen barrier crumbling beneath her will. "Strength lies in surrender," they hissed, their voices slithering through her. "Accept it," but she fought back. Sarah thrust the knife into the darkness, aiming for a spot she imagined to be their heart. "Get away from us," she roared. The blade sliced through the shadows, a pulse of light erupting where it struck. Flecks of black exploded like sand in the wind, shrieks of anger echoing around her. She staggered, feeling the darkness momentarily retreat. A glimpse of the world outside shimmered for a heartbeat, a dim path, the outline of trees silhouetted against a dark sky, and a hint of the moon's glow. It was a territory she recognized, but the shadows yanked her back, warping it all to an incomprehensible mess. A sharp chill stung at her lungs as the shadows swarmed, enveloping her like a cloak. She was aware of time slipping through her fingers. She had to move. "Mommy?" That faint call seemed like an anchor through the cacophony. A flicker of hope ignited her heart. "I'm here," she cried, voice barely escaping her lips as the darkness pulled and tugged, trying to drown out her resolve. Suddenly, a glimmer of light ignited in her chest. It was warmth, enveloping her like a tender embrace. "Lily, I'm coming," she shouted, adrenaline fueling her movements. Sarah pushed through the mass of shadows, anxiety and determination battling for dominance. Another wail reverberated through her, chilling her spine. "You can't escape what you've begun." The knife felt like fire in her hand. With every step, she felt the pulse of the realm around her, a heartbeat she began to change with her own. The shadows distorted and twisted in sync with her pounding heart, and she realized she was no longer just fighting them. She was becoming a part of this battle, an opposition to their dark reign. The ground beneath her trembled violently. They were angry. She could feel their rage crackling through the air, a tempest of despair threatening to sweep her away. "Join us, for when the end comes, you will be ours forever." The words hung heavy, saturating the air with a lingering echo. She could taste the bitterness, and it drove her to act. "No!" She screamed one last time, plunging the knife toward the heart of the darkness again, desperate to break their hold. The impact resonated, locking her in a web of fraught energy. Suddenly, the shadows dissipated, dispersing like smoke in the wind. She caught her breath, heart beating furiously, when she heard it again, soft as a feather yet urgent. "Mommy, Lily." It surged through her, a fierce hope battling the lingering dread. Yet, the ground shook once more, and she felt the world teeter on an ominous edge. What lay beyond, she wondered. Would she find her daughter, or would something much darker claim her instead? The shadows began to stir as Sarah steadied herself, the light pulsing softly within her chest, the heartbeat of hope, but also the pulse of fear. Every inch she took felt like being entwined in barbed wire, pulling her back toward the darkness. But the voice, Lily's voice, resonated loudly, cutting through every whisper of despair. "Mommy! Stay with me!" Sarah called, the fervor flooding back into her veins. She felt the knife tighten within her grasp, its weight more of a comfort than a burden. A part of her filled with the determination to fight back, not just for herself, but for the bright spirit flickering within the shadows. The ground underneath her quaked, shadows writhed in desperation as if sensing their grasp on her was slipping. "You can't leave us!" The voices screeched, a cacophony of distorted cries mixing with mocking laughter. But Sarah refused to listen. She had endured enough nightmares. It was time to step into the light, no matter the cost. "Lily! I'm coming!" With one last breath, she lunged past the endless grasping shadows, knife aimed for the heart of darkness, the phantasmagoric core that harbored the lost souls, including her daughter. The knife pierced the void, shockwaves rippling through the darkness as it screamed in disarray. Everything turned white-hot. Light radiated from the stab point, exploding outward and sending shadows scattering like cockroaches. Sarah felt an unseen force pushing her back, her feet lifting off the ground momentarily as the shadows hissed and recoiled from the purifying glow. "You can't fight this forever, Sarah," they shrieked, voices mingling with her fears. "You'll be ours." But she felt Lily's presence, closer than ever, tethered by the shimmering light that surged through her, a tether stronger than any dark tendril. "I'm not leaving you." Sarah's resolve roared louder than the shadows, and with that final declaration, she thrust the blade again, piercing through the swirling darkness. Light exploded in every direction, blinding and pure, pouring into every cranny where despair once lived. Sarah shielded her eyes, allowing the purity to seep into the cracks of her heart, scorching away what had held her captive. The shadows melted away like snow under the sun, splintering into shimmering motes of dust carried off by the wind. Then, she felt it, a gentle, warm hand grasping hers through the radiant glow. Heart on fire, she opened her eyes and gasped, blinking as the blinding light faded, revealing a serene glade bathed in soft moonlight. "Mommy?" Lily stood before her, more radiant than she remembered. The filigree of shadows that once clung to her was gone, leaving behind only the essence of innocence. "I was so scared," the little girl whispered, her eyes glowing with love. "Lily." Sarah collapsed to her knees, pulling her daughter into her arms. Tears streamed down her face as warmth washed over them both. She held her tightly, the constant tremors in the air fading, the darkness scared away, perhaps finally banished. "I thought I lost you," she sobbed, the tension of the nightmare uncoiling, raw relief flooding her heart. The shadows of doubt and despair melted away, replaced by something burdened yet beautiful, the love of a mother. "Let us go home, sweet pea," Sarah whispered, her heart steadying with conviction now that she knew they had won. Together, they turned towards the path that had opened before them. Stars twinkled above, gentle reminders of hope. As they walked toward the welcoming horizon, a deep calm enveloped them. The nightmares lay locked in the past, the shadows drifting away, unable to touch them again. In their place, adventure awaited, the promise of bright tomorrows woven into the fabric of their newfound strength. They stepped beyond fear, hand in hand, brightened by courage fueled by love. It was just the beginning, but together, they would face whatever challenges lay ahead, and in the distance, as the moonlight danced softly upon the earth, hope lingered, a broken darkness forever on the edges. If this story gripped you, subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss the next exclusive tales that will haunt your dreams. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm, because your support matters. Flood the comments section with your reactions or theories, we crave to hear from you. And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Only true fans understand the enormous importance of supporting the channel through these actions. Do it now.